But today our topic is how much sex should we be having? And we know that's different for different people, different relationships. But I would like to know, like, what do you see in your practice as a licensed sex therapist?
So what do I see in terms of how much people are having the sex? I would
Or who's complaining the most, or who's not listening the most, or who's withholding the most.
So most of what I see is people complaining about not having enough sex, right? That's why they're traditionally coming to me. And it's typically the guys saying, I need more sex, and the women saying, well, I'm not feeling it. And there's a lot of different ways or reasons why they don't want to have sex with their partner.
Ooh, tell us.
So the biggest one I see is that they don't want to fuck their child. And their husband feels like their child because they have to do all the things for them all the time. They have to schedule the doctor's appointments. They have to pick up their socks off the floor. And it feels very motherly in a sense. And so that is an instant mood killer. And so my job is to help them reignite the romance, kind of
how
divvy up the chores in a sense, because that is huge, right? I'm big on chore lists. And talking about what it is that does turn them on and what turns them off. Because I think a lot of people focus on just what turns them on, but you also need to know what turns people off too, right?
I would think that the reverse. I would be quick to say what's turning me off.
But a lot of people don't. A lot of people will just accept it. Right? They'll just
accept what turns them off.
Yeah. Kind of he did this, but I didn't say anything about it.
Gotcha.
Okay. He asked me to clean the kitchen a certain way, and that completely turned me off. But I didn't say anything about it. I just cleaned the kitchen.
What do you mean a certain way?
People have their ways of loading the dishwasher, things like that.
That seems like the people that need to do it themselves.
Exactly.
Mm.
And so teaching them to vocalize both, right? Recognizing that you can say both and share, and it'll help.
Okay, so you said men are complaining the most, and I think this is an important question. Are the women receptive to the men's complaints?
Yes, they understand it. They know. For the most part, they know exactly why they're not having sex as much. It's just they haven't told their partner about why they're not having sex as much.
Sorry. Is it because they find that to be a difficult conversation, or they're scared of what his reaction is going to be?
They don't want to hurt his feelings, right? They, don't sometimes think it's worth it to have this conversation because it's going to lead to other things. And a lot of times it's pressure. They feel that there is a particular way they need to perform in terms of sex sometimes, that they're just like, I don't want to have to deal with all of this, so I'm just not going to talk about it at all. Because I don't want him thinking that I'm open to having sex at this moment.
Are they okay with them saying no, their partner accepting that they're saying no, and then their partner going to find it elsewhere?
So my job is to help them recognize that they can say no, and that doesn't mean that it's going to be no forever, right? And helping them realize that even if it's no right now, what are some other ways that we can make it a yes with something else? Now, in terms of what I like to call outsourcing, which is having somebody else fulfill those sexual needs, that is a much longer conversation and a deeper conversation.
Isn't it more practical though?
You would think, right? We outsource everything else in our lives, right? We hire assistants, we have people do our laundry and our, dry cleaning and things. So why not outsource sex in some way? But it depends. A lot of people have those traditional mindsets of this is my partner. I'm only having sex with this person for the rest of my life because we're married or we committed to this in some way.
What is predominant? What is the majority? Not the range.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume anybody who can afford it, right, is a range. But if I say I have 100 clients, but 40 of them are 40 and over, and the rest just scatter, then predominantly 40 is the age range.
Mm-hmm.
So what is yours?
Predominantly 30s.
Okay. Mid or old? Young, mid. Okay.
You're hitting that point. You're there.
Oh, okay.
No.
So you're trying
Because
to.
no, because the thing is, no. What I'm trying to do is I'm actually trying to understand because I really do think that again, people are very different between the ages of I would say 18 to 32 and then 33 to 40 or 50. They're very, very like the mindset of both of those groups are just so different. Or let's just give it 15 years, right? Let's just say 20 or 18 to 33, same thing. So, because I don't think like a 28-year-old is going to be as traditional as a 38-year-old. Therefore, their relationship dynamic looks entirely different, as well as them feeling like they can't say and can't speak about the reasons of not having sex. I feel like a 22-year-old woman would tell a man, "Yo, I'm not having sex today," and be okay. You know what I'm saying? And a 36-year-old might not, especially if she's been married to him since she was 25. It's like entirely different.
Wait. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. You're saying a 22-year-old is going to say, I'm not having sex with you, and she's going to go about her day, and that's the end of it, but a 36-year-old is not?
I think that if we had to compare, the mindset of both of those people are not the same, and the one who is younger is more likely going to be able to not be scared to voice the fact that she's not having sex and her reasons, especially considering if that person who is in their mid to late 30s has been married for X amount of time to this partner, let's just say 8 years, or she's 38 and she's been with him since 29 and married at 30. So she's been with him for 9 total years, married for 8 years. She's already grown up in a world and a society where it is very traditional. Majority of her adulthood was with a traditional state of mind. Now, the traditional state of mind for the youth is nowhere near the same.
But I don't think that's a tradition. I'm sorry. I don't think that's a traditional thing. I think that's more so of like, just where you are in life. I feel like the 36-year-old or 38-year-old is going to be like, I ain't fucking tonight. Go beat your meat. The 22-year-old is the one who's going to feel pressured into having sex.
Nah.
Well, yeah, let's touch on that because you pushed that a couple of times, but let's push it. Aaron is saying it's not necessarily the age that has, the generation.
Yeah, it's not.
Aaron is not saying you could be Generation Z, X, B, it doesn't matter. It's the place you're at in your life. So commonly what a 25-year-old did in 1975 is the same thing a 25-year-old will do in 2023.
That's what I'm saying is wrong.
But Aaron is saying that when you get into 35 and you get at a different age, it's different.
No, this is what I'm saying.
And it kind of connects with the women over 30 thing, which is the theory, right?
No. So what happens is the way life works in every aspect, things speed up. So your knowledge speeds up, your learning, like more at a younger age as life progresses, right? Everything has moved faster. Cars have gotten faster, computer has gotten faster, information and the transfer of information has gotten faster. Kids have become more mature sooner. So it's impossible to think that a 25-year-old in 1970s is going to be the same as a 25-year-old mentality-wise in 2023. Everything has gotten so much faster. So the maturity of a 22-year-old to be comfortable with saying no and not ego stroke a man is starting at an earlier age now than comparison than before.
Okay.
Well, the whole argument is a little bit different, Rico, because when you think about it, kids at 15 have full-time jobs. Long time ago, people started a lot harder younger.
Yeah, I
like
was saying
now,
processing
you were
is
expected to
different.
be out your house by 16.
Oh, Lord.
And you were expected to already be working. I'm talking about
You supposed to
50,
be
60 years
married at
ago.
16.
Like what
Right.
my dad,
Right.
what my dad went through, I'd be like, for real? Because
Mine too, yeah.
my dad was like, he was out the house by 9. Looking for work, looking for because my sister said I'm gonna say 9. It might have been 7.
9 years old. So.
You did?
My dad.
Oh, okay.
Dad.
Right. So my parents were mature a lot earlier.
But mature in what aspect? See,
Life.
Working.
That's not work. That's
Experience
not mature though. That's just being able to work. See, like I could also argue. Guess what? there's probably more millionaire 15-year-olds right now than ever before who are utilizing the world at a way faster rate. So people are getting richer faster. Yeah, you might have been forced to go out and work at a factory at 16 and 15, maybe even 12. My grandfather had never finished 8th grade and was a correctional officer illegally before he was even 18. So like, okay, yeah, he might have been doing that, but just because you work sooner doesn't mean that you're moving faster.
I don't think that's what he's saying though.
But what
So it sounds like people have access to more information now, and so
That's the basis.
increases
Yeah.
their knowledge and their ability to accept certain things or not accept certain things, particularly in relationships. Like I know my value, I know my worth at a younger age compared to say when I was in high school, right? You know, it was completely different for a lot of folks.
The
because they don't
mindsets
have
of
that
these
access.
20-year-olds are definitely different
Mhm.
than when my mom had me at 25. I'm 25 right now, and my mom had her whole life together, and we were just two different 25-year-olds,
Right.
like for sure.
Mhm.
I'm her second kid, and
Oh wow.
she had her job, she had her house. My dad moved in with her. Like she
Boss.
she had it all together. And that's just obviously not me at 25, but I understand what both of you guys were saying. I think I resonate with Rico a little bit more. Honestly, because I know that me as someone as a 25-year-old, I know my attitude. I know that I'm just like, well, mom, daddy could put out his own food. Like, why are you always like, that's just me. And she was just like, Amanda, when you grow up and you get a husband, like you'll understand. And I'm just like, fuck that. Like, he gonna have to do that himself. Like, he gonna have to. And that's just my attitude. And maybe she's right. Maybe when I get a husband, I'll know. But I just feel like that we differ because we're from different generations. She
Absolutely.
grew up a certain way, and I grew up being very opinionated, and I have my own mind, and I speak my mind.
that's
I've
the
been more
key.
outspoken, I think,
Yeah.
rather than because we all have the same opinion.
Mm.
But again, especially when you talk about relationships, women were not as outspoken back then as they are now. So if a girl who's grown up, who's 25 years old, so let's just say 1998 is when she was born. You can't tell me when she was 18, let's just say, what is that, 2016, right? Around. So let's say she's becoming an adult in 2015, 16. The world that you're an adult in is way different than if you were an adult in 1995. So as an adult, Amanda, for example, has seen women being outspoken and demanding and standing on what they demand. Now, if you were an 18-year-old girl in 1995, you were probably taught to stroke the man's ego, hush it up. Hey, just bite the bullet. Hey, you know what? Clean up after him even if you don't want to. Hey, have sex with him even if you don't want to. So what I'm saying is the age gap is such a different dynamic in the mentality of the woman. That's why I was so curious on knowing what age gap are you talking about, because you're gonna get a different result if you say my age gap is predominantly 22, 23, 24 versus 20, 33, 34, 35. So that's what I'm curious, because we always talk about right now, but we really need to start understanding where people are heading.
Last one. I interviewed this girl, and she was 25 when she came here. I interviewed a couple weeks ago, and we didn't put it out yet. And she was like, her and her boyfriend moved in when she was 21. She said it was all fun until he kept losing his job.
Mm.
Sex drive went, no, don't touch me. Everything about it. She was like, we were excited. We only knew each other 6 months. They were only 21, 22. They only moved in. She said, I had a car and a car note and insurance. We got the apartment. He kept losing his job. She was like, it was just too much. So that's where I'm trying to get through that part. Is it age, circumstance? What is it really that makes people not want to have sex?
So this is my
and on Rico's generation, because Chris Rock did say there's new generation girls, they sleep with you, and as you're trying to hold them, they already got up, got dressed, and left.
And it's their
ahead.
experiences, right? Because People have
Sure.
had to go through a lot more in different circumstances. And so you have to keep that all in mind when you're trying to figure out, okay, is this more of a generational thing? Is it a more of a societal thing? Or is it a circumstance thing? It's actually all three of them things, right? Because you don't know what experiences people have gone through to say, no, I don't want to cuddle with this nigga when we done having sex, right? Like they could have been abused in some way. They could have seen their parents in different relationship dynamics that just didn't serve them. So you have to be mindful of all of it, including their age, right? What is being pushed to them in media, amongst their friends, like amongst the adults in their lives. Like, so that's what's going to kind of be part of their decision to, am I going to deal with this in this relationship, or am I going to avoid it, or am I just going to leave completely?
No, yeah,
Good.
100%.
So